Thank you so much for the invitation. I appreciate you greatly.
Yes, thank you
Oh,
so much for accepting. I'm so happy to have you on tonight.
my
Um,
pleasure.
so, welcome you guys again to Melanin and Manuscripts Author Spotlight. Tonight we have Suzette D. Harrison, and we will be talking about the recent release of With Her Baby on Her Back. Um, I love this book. Thank you for the advanced copy. I ate it up. And I'm really excited to have you on tonight so we can talk about it, tap in. And I'm really excited that we're meeting because it just released on Monday. You know what I mean? So this
Yes.
is fresh and it's the perfect time to talk about it. So those of us who are joining us, this is Suzette D. Harrison. And right now, she is essentially look celebrating this recent release of this book. We also to share have two copies for giveaway, thanks to Book Utor. And so, Suzette, for those who haven't met you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself and essentially what led you to become a writer. Let's start there.
Let me start by saying thank you. I'm so honored to be here with you. So I appreciate it from the depths of my heart and my soul. As you already know, I am Suzette. I am a West Coast native, third generation Californian, currently living in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay. Okay.
I am a mother of two adult children, a wife. I'm a pastry chef, cookie connoisseur here. And what led me to writing, excuse me, let me backtrack just a little bit. I primarily write historical, African American historical fiction. I do dabble a little bit in Black romance, and I even have a children's book, but it is historical fiction that speaks to
Yeah.
my soul and that draws from my bones. How
Yeah.
I landed in writing, I always wrote poetry, even from a very small child, as a very small child. I had pieces of poetry published when I was in junior high school in our junior high school annual, as well as in college. But it was a personal experience that led me to switching from poetry to fiction. You know, when I was doing poetry, I thought I was
Mhm.
going to be the next Nikki Giovanni, Dr. Maya Angelou,
Yeah.
but life said something different. And just with transparency, I went through depression. I did not know back then what it was. I was a young
Mhm.
wife, no children yet, but I was just this darkness that was just tormenting me. And the only thing I could do was come home from work and get in the bed and pull the covers up. And I finally got sick of my own self, maybe a couple of months in. And I said, what can I do to lift this? And I know I love to read. I'm an avid reader before I am a writer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went to a book that I'd read when I was a teenager, Dr. Maya Angelou's I Know Why the
Mhm.
Caged Bird Sings. And I
Yes.
want to tell you, Miss Tangi, I am not saying figuratively, I mean literally. When I finished that second reading, the
Yeah.
darkness broke. So I
Mm.
know it was divine. It was leading me to where I was going because I recall saying, if this book can do this for me, writing and literature can do this for me, this is what I want to do for others. And that's
Yes.
what pivoted my track from poetry to fiction.
I love that. I love that. And I love, I love historical fiction. The takeaway, like we obviously understand parts of the story of fiction, but the fact I'm one of the people that watches things that are based on a true story. And so reading something to this effect, I love it. We got so much. Like I didn't know about Biddy Mason. Now I do,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I like to do something like this. Give us your elevator pitch for why readers should pick up With Her Baby on Her Back.
Elevator pitch. I write thousands of words. I don't do elevator pitches.
And you
I'll do
only
my
had a few words.
I'll do my best. Imagine walking from Mississippi to California with a baby on your back and your two little girls holding your hands. You're walking from slavery to another state that's supposed to be free, only to find out that there too is slavery. What do you do? How do you keep your children safe and your family intact?
You did it. You got it. Yes. Yes. Listen, I had the tabs. This is my copy. I had the tabs. Okay. I was all the way there. So the story was inspired, obviously, by the life of Biddy Mason.
Yeah.
When did you, well, I know, but for readers who haven't read it yet, because you share in the end kind of what transpired this, what was your inspiration? When did you first learn about her and what made you feel like this is a story that I have to tell?
Yes, ma'am. So my husband is a retired college professor. He retired early. He said, I'm done. He worked at the university for years and he was a professor of African American studies. So my husband is very loquacious and gregarious, and he comes home and he wants to share what he's done in class. And I just remember him saying, have you ever heard of Biddy Mason? And I was like, no, I was ashamed to say it because I'm a Black
Yeah.
Studies major. My bachelor's is in Black Studies.
Yeah,
And still, I never
I
heard of
haven't
Biddy
either.
Mason. So we lived in California at that time. As I said, I'm third generation. So it was really, it kind of resonated with me the fact that she lived in Los Angeles, this
Hmm.
woman by the name of Biddy Mason. Anyhow, it didn't really land with me, Miss Tangi, as something that I want to write about. It was just, okay, now I know who Biddy Mason is. He came back to it like a couple years later. Have you heard of Biddy Mason? Like you already asked me that.
Yeah.
And yes, I've
Yeah.
heard of her now, but that second time something prompted, kind of like a flicker. And I said, well, let me go read about her. And it was in reading about her and learning her story, then that nudge started, that
Yeah.
writer's nudge. Like, this is a journey I need to go on with the eye of possibly writing her story. And that's exactly what happened. So it was like Miss Biddy was like, "Girl, hey, excuse me, I'm
Yeah.
trying to talk to you. Are you listening?"
Right.
And so that's what led my attention to her.
Yeah, and when I read the end, as you shared in the book about the inspiration, I was right there with you. Like I hadn't heard of her either, so that's what really drew me in because I was like, "Who is Biddy Mason?" Like, why
Mhm.
wasn't this a story that we were told? So I definitely appreciate you taking this on and producing this historical fiction because they need to know. Like, it was a
Mhm.
wonderful story, and to learn all the 1848 Mississippi. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
that I was all the way in. What part of Biddy Mason's real life journey, I guess, impacted you the most?
I am the middle of three daughters. And just the
Mhm.
thought of mother walking anywhere with the three of us, just like, I just can't believe, it's just
Right.
unfathomable. I have two children myself, and I just could not imagine the perils and the fear of, and being forced to walk. You didn't walk because you
Right.
wanted to. The enslavers forced because they were going in search of
Yeah.
their religious freedoms. Again, the ironies of America. You're in search of your religious freedoms while I'm enslaved to you. So
Yes.
to see that she had to walk across and walk. I can't ride on the back of a wagon. It's not bad enough that you're making me and my children leave. The
Yes.
devil I do know, for the devil I don't. So,
Yes.
that really resonated with me, that she was a mother, and not just a mother. Her children were under the age of 10, or her oldest was 10 at the time. And
Yeah.
she had a newborn baby and
Yeah.
then a 4-year-old. And not just her children, but you still have to herd the cattle and the sheep and the goats, and you
Yes.
have to break down the camp and set up the camp. You have to cook. All the duties that were on the homestead go with you. All the racism and the
Mhm.
violence that you experience on the homestead are traveling with you. You're not safe. If anything, you're
Exactly.
even more vulnerable because now you're living outside.
Right, exactly. That was where I was in the way in which you wrote so descriptively. I was able to, I felt like I put myself there just imagining it. And I was horrified, all the different things. And, the accident in the water, just making sure my
Mm,
children stay safe and all the things and breastfeeding and then being
mhm.
asked to breastfeed somebody else's baby. That,
Hello.
mm.
Ooh, that
I
one
was
right
I went
there.
through so many emotions reading just the journey from them leaving Mississippi to head on. And I was just like, I cannot believe all this. And I appreciate the slow burn build in the beginning of this story because we do need to see that was an important piece. All that they went through, all of the different challenges from the butterflies to don't eat those snake eggs, all the
Yes,
things,
ma'am.
you know.
Yes.
Um, and like you said, just you guys having to be at the end. You're with the cattle. Like
Mhm.
you're enslaved, and this is how they do you, but they rely on you so heavily every single day, but you're at the back of the line. It
Mhm.
was bittersweet. I like the parts where it discussed, while we're back here, though, we're kind of out of sight, out of mind in a
Right.
sense. So the kids
Yeah.
were able to frolic and run, and I could talk to my sister while, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, that upset me. I was like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, yeah. But uh, that impacted me the most as well. So, in thinking about historical fiction, it requires that balance between fact and imagination. How did you decide where history ended and fiction began?
That's a wonderful story. What's important to me is authenticity, and that the story, and not just the story, but the character feels, sounds, tastes, smells genuine. So I approach with a lot of respect and a lot of honor. And I invite my ancestors because listen, I wasn't there. All I
Yeah,
have are history, books and textbooks
yeah,
to inform me. So I really do try to hone in on the fact that I am the typist, and it's for my characters to present the story to me in a sense. Of course, I
mhm,
do have, control. I'm the human doing the writing,
right.
but I really do try to approach from an honorable place. So versus fiction, sometimes I don't think there's really a distinction.
Yeah,
They can overlap so vividly and seamlessly. What I don't want to do is take liberties.
right.
I don't want, and especially just for gratuitous reasons, just to incite the reader or excite the reader. I really do my best to be honorable, or to treat my subject matter honorably. One thing I will say with this particular book, it's a dual timeline. For those who
Right.
aren't familiar with a dual timeline, it means that we have two stories running parallel in two different time periods. So Miss Zinni, who was inspired by Biddy Mason, her time period is 1848. But then we have a contemporary character by the name of Lynette
Lynette.
Stanford.
Yes,
Lynette
yes.
Stanford, and she's contemporary. So what I find, Miss Tangi, is that when I'm writing history, and especially when it's dense and it gets dark, when I do a dual timeline, that contemporary character gives me a reprieve.
Yes,
You know,
that was the feedback I was going to give you. I think that's one of my
okay.
questions coming up, the dual timeline. I don't think, yeah, I don't think have read a historical fiction yet that was quite put like this with the dual timeline and POV. And I was thinking throughout the story, and by the end, I was like, while it was the dark moments, the enslaved moments where we go through Zinni and this journey and what's happening with her, then we switch over to Lynette, present day Texas, and what she's got going on. I felt like it was like you said, reprieve, a palate cleanser.
Mhm.
At the same
Yeah.
time, I kind of was like, all right, Lynette, I want to get back to Zinni. So
Yeah.
I just kept going back and forth. But
Yeah.
I love the way you did that. I think that was brilliant. Like, we needed that. We did need that because it was so heavy. And sometimes I know personally for me, and I don't know if anyone who's joined us feels the same, but when I read historical fiction or when I want to read, sometimes I put it off. I put it off just
Yeah.
because I know of the emotional toll it's going to take on me. Because much of the time it's taking us back to that
Mhm.
part of our ancestral
Mhm.
history that we don't like, and we get angry,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I tend to stay away until I'm like in the right headspace to take it on. And unfortunately, just with everything going on in our current society,
Mhm.
present
Mhm.
day, it can make you feel like, oh, this is too much, it's overwhelming. However, this allowed me to stay through it because of that dual timeline. I read all the way through, so I definitely appreciate the way you did that. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's actually the fourth time I've done a dual timeline with her baby on her back. It's the fourth time, and like I said, it's like I love what you said. It's a palate cleanser.
Yes.
I finished chapter one with Zinni, and now I get a break. I can go learn about Lynette, and I love historical. So it doesn't offend me when people tell me, "Well, I loved Zinni or the historical character." The
Yeah.
contemporary, she's all right. It was fine,
I
and that's
still Lynette's still my girl. I still like Lynette, her sisters.
But I understand that point of view, so it's not a
Yeah.
problem whatsoever.
Yeah. Was there anything you discovered during your research, I guess, that completely surprised you as you delve into Biddy Mason?
I don't want to say completely surprised me. Well, I'll take that back. Again, because my husband had already, started getting in my ear about it. I knew, and this is the surprise, is that she was kind of like the grandmother of Los Angeles. We can
Hmm.
mention Los Angeles, and anybody in the world practically knows what we're referring to.
Yeah.
But what I did not know was that a Black woman, a formerly enslaved woman, was instrumental in
Right.
the building of one of the largest, now largest cities in
Yeah.
America. She was a midwife. She was an herbalist. She was a
Yes.
philanthropist. She set up accounts at stores for the less fortunate. She
Mhm.
started a daycare center. And there is a church that stands to this day in Los Angeles,
Mm.
famed first African American Episcopal, excuse me, that
Mhm.
she funded. She paid
Wow.
the taxes for. Why don't we know Biddy Mason?
Exactly. Why don't we know her?
Why don't we know who she is?
Mm.
And so there
Mm.
is a memorial erected to her, small little park and memorial in Los Angeles. And her great granddaughters, whatever numbers,
Yeah.
six removed, whatever,
Yeah.
they still remain. She has
Yeah.
family that's still there. And when she passed, her wealth in today's dollars was like $3 million. A
I saw
enslaved
that. Yeah.
formerly enslaved woman. She was just a savvy businesswoman and bought land and real
Mhm.
estate. And she would live, sometimes on the top floor and then rent out the bottom.
Yeah.
She was ahead of her time.
She really was.
Yeah,
After when I watch something on TV or I read something based on true stories or facts, I went to
yeah,
Googling. I done looked
yeah,
up pictures. I saw her
yeah.
granddaughters. The what I looked up everything. So I
Mhm.
saw all that and I was like, wow. And I thought the same thing. Like, why didn't we know this? Why, But no worries because thanks to
Yeah,
you, we do
that's
now.
right.
Okay.
We do now.
Yes, thanks to you, we know now. I thought the same thing. I was like, why don't we know any of this? And we're talking about LA here.
Right.
And so I'm thinking about the characters. Yes, Zenny, we have Lynette, then we have the other side characters that were very instrumental to the story. The biggest thing, the ancestral connection. So throughout the novel, it felt very powerful. Right on brand, I feel like, just for our culture. What
Mhm.
did you hope readers would take away from those moments?
That our ancestors are still with us, and that we didn't get here by accident,
Mhm.
and that our lives, we're connected still to that which is behind us, even as we press towards what is in front of us,
Yeah.
and that we should give honor and reverence where honor and reverence is due, that our ancestors paved ways. I mean,
Yeah.
Miss Biddy literally paved the way with her feet. She
Yes.
walked from Mississippi. How
With
do you think she could walk?
blisters.
Listen, she walked from Mississippi to California and did what she did once she got here. And ironically, and I do that in quotes intentionally, as I said, I'm a third generation Californian. While I was writing this book, I'm packing my house to move to the South. So
Mm.
Miss Biddy and I did this. She
Yeah.
went from Mississippi to California. I went from California to Georgia, but I had
Mm.
the luxury of a vehicle to ride in.
Yeah.
I didn't have to walk across country. And I remember just writing and crying, thinking about that,
Yeah.
that this is progress, that I get to choose to
Yes.
come to the South, whereas she was forced to go to the West. And I have the luxury of air conditioning in
Yeah.
my vehicle, etc. So nothing's lost. That would be the point for readers, that nothing is lost. Our
Yeah.
history is so important and valuable, and that we owe our ancestors so much. If it's nothing but love and a thank
Yeah.
you, but we owe them so much, and they accomplished so much so that we have luxuries today. Even though we
Absolutely.
are dealing with our own struggles
Yeah.
in this time, like my mama says, we came from good stock.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I
Yeah.
love the way you wove that throughout it. And it wasn't just Zenny, but also Lynette. Like both ends,
Mhm.
both of the timelines experience that. So to your point, they're with us every day. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Navigating, helping, protecting,
Mhm.
serving.
Yes.
Um Legacy is a strong theme to that point in this book. How do you define legacy?
Mhm. Mhm. Legacy to me is that it's a gift that we want to carry forward. It's a gift that we want to carry on. Like I said, my mother says we come from good stock or strong stock. Legacy is something, it's a jewel, it's a gem, it's whatever strength and lessons and wisdom that you were given, that we've been given by those that came before us or those that are right beside us. I'm thankful my mother's still here. So
Yeah.
she's before me, you know, technically, but she's still here. Legacy is something that's so important and um, worthy of our time and our attention. It could be some families have a legacy of education. Some
Right.
families have a legacy where there's multiple doctors in the family or there's multiple business people in the family. It's
Mhm.
whatever your family determines is worthy and something that you can strive towards or that you move towards, that which gives value to you and your descendants and
Yeah.
those with you.
Yep. Absolutely. Hit it on the nail. Yeah. I agree. Um, and when you think of the characters in the book, and not just any and Lynette, because we have a bunch of other everybody, Granny, what or who was most challenging? Did you feel like was to write? Who challenged you the
Oh,
most? I guess while writing.
yeah, so not so much the individual things that happened to the individual.
Yeah.
So, for example, Lovey, I won't do any spoilers, but
Yeah.
Lovey broke me to the place I had to get up and move from the computer and go somewhere and literally weep and go get my, refresh myself in woosah. Lovey's story broke me, and I
Yes.
wrestled with whether or not to write it. And again, it was that thing on the shoulder. You better write it the way I tell you to write it. And I was
Yeah.
like, but can I do it differently? Yeah, sure you can, but it won't be authentic to what I need you to say and what I
Right.
need you to tell. So Lovey and Aretha, oh my
And
gosh,
that one.
Aretha. Yeah, she
Yeah.
had heart, what she went through, and
Yes.
she was a determined young lady, and she was just fierce, like, I'm not staying enslaved. And she
Yeah.
suffered because of that. But she
Mhm.
still was light and love, even at the end. Her love was so apparent. They had her taking care of the children. You don't
Yeah.
leave your children with nobody hateful. Her love,
Exactly.
or you
Exactly.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, her love
Yeah.
and her life was so wonderful. And of course, in the contemporary Justice, Justice was just a sweetheart, and the things
Hmm.
that he was dealing with the neurodivergence and how he was
Yeah.
struggling,
I
struggling
was like,
to
I love
find
this
his.
kid. I love that kid.
Yeah. So those were the I don't want to call them side characters, but they were the other instrumental characters that were really meaningful
Yes.
for me.
Yeah. And that you kind of answered my next question because I was going to ask, was there a scene that was seriously emotional or difficult for you to write? And I know for me, same thing, Lovey. And then when we get to the part where we see our girl again, I
Mm.
was, yeah, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I was,
Mhm.
that touched me deeply.
Yeah.
Um, with the story, I love that, as readers, we tend to share about how we're going through the emotional toll of, it just touching us deeply and navigating. I know I usually talk about, oh, I ugly cried, but I love the fact that here you as the writer, how that was also impactful for you, that in writing this, it touched you too, because definitely yeah, it was a couple moments that, yeah, I was getting hot. I was like,
Yeah.
why is my face wet? And then also just some tears of joy. There was moments you gave us that we could celebrate. So I hope readers or people tuning in, while this is historical fiction with heavy themes, we have light. There's moments of light. There's moments of laughter. Like I love the butterfly scene. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That was like, if someone was recording me, they're like, "You just making all these faces. What is happening?" That's how it was. So themes. The novel explores freedom, family, faith, resilience, healing. Which of those themes, I guess, feels most personal to you?
Faith and family, would be foremost, of course. That would be the most foremost answer that comes to me. But that healing, I think, is so imperative as well, and so
Yeah.
important to us, especially as African Americans, that there's so much that we have to heal from. We carry not just the legacy of strength, but we
Yeah.
carry the scars. You know, we carry the
Hmm.
scars of what happened to our forebears and our ancestors. We carry the memory even in our DNA, even if we can't tell you specifically what happened to great, 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 great grandmother or grandfather. We still carry that, the memories, you know, in our souls and our DNAs. So healing is so important to me as well. And not just that, but the sisterhood that comes through in the book.
I was
The
gonna say the found
sisterhood.
family in this, you know?
Yes, and how they created family and slavery was so precarious. We don't have birth certificates. I don't really know if that's my sister if I didn't grow up with her from birth,
Right.
but they made family, and that is just like so precious to me today. You know, sisterhood, even if it's not biological. So
Right.
those are some of the things that are, you know, important to me that I draw from.
Yeah. And one of the things this book reminds us of is that healing can happen across generations. And because of this dual timeline, we also get to see that in
Mhm.
1848 and then in present day. You know what I mean? Um, which I guess, or why was it important for you in this? I feel like I know the answer, but just for our readers, why was it important for you to explore that generational healing and fold that into the story?
We deserve it. We need it. We're worthy of it, and it's available to us. We
Yeah.
don't have to sit in the trauma. We can liberate ourselves and we can free ourselves and we can reach back in the to the past if we need to do it.
Yeah.
There's something there for us.
Absolutely. What what do you hope Black women in particular, I guess, feel after finishing this book?
I want them to smile. I think, you know, the very last scene of the book, you know, we smile. We get to woosah, we get to breathe, and we get to exhale and just have hope. You know, close the
Yeah.
book with hope. It's not yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's dense. I'm not so much about, oh, I got to give you a happily ever after.
Right.
I'm not interested in gratuitous joy,
Right.
but I want you to see that there is true joy, that
Yeah.
joy can come and joy does happen. So that's what I will hope that readers walk away with was, or is rather, excuse me, the strength, the power, the resilience, and that I too have this.
Yeah. And I know personally for me, as I got to the end, I have a little tab. But I actually wrote this down and saved it in my notes. But this was the quote we, you know, as we thought about Zinni as a philanthropist and what she believed as far as helping others. And it said, if you hold your hand closed, nothing good can come in. The open hand is blessed, for it gives in abundance, even as it receives. And I love that. That was a big takeaway, you know, for me. And also in just thinking about my regular day work, I'm actually a clinician, and I was just like, I'm gonna probably put this in my office, put this up because it was so true. That was really touching, and I love that it came up multiple times. And then in my little research, because I was being nosy afterwards, like who's her people and who still survive? You know, they mentioned that, and that's obviously
Mhm.
on theme with just something we are able to take away and hold on to after the story ends. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's literally excuse me, Miss Bridget Biddy Mason's words. I got that
Yeah.
from her, drew that from her. And that even, you know, sometimes we worry or fret in our current generation that we're not together, we're not unified, and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But that statement from her, that quote from her, is so beautiful. It's a reminder to
Hmm.
open our hands and open our hearts and helping each other,
Yeah.
you know, through sorrow, through happiness, through whatever it may be, to help others and not just ourselves.
Absolutely. If Biddy Mason could read this novel today, what do you hope she'd say?
Oh, don't make me cry, Miss
I know.
Tangi.
Like I felt a little emotional while I asked her, like, I know.
I would hope that she would say, not thank you, but I appreciate that you told my story in a form. What I've been told in the past from people with historical fiction, excuse me, from people, from readers, is that it makes it more palatable when it's
Yeah.
in fiction form.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I guess it's just something about the brain that reading
Yeah.
hardcore facts hit sometimes harder, but with fiction form, it makes it more digestible.
Yeah.
So I would hope that, because I know that there are other books about Miss Biddy that are,
Yeah.
factual books. I hope that she would be proud of the fact that now people can read her story in fictional form, a
Yeah.
fictionalized narrative of her life, and that it's more digestible, that they won't
Yes,
turn away and run from the
I
fact
agree.
that it's historical fiction. Don't run from it. Stay
Yeah.
there. I always, when I hear people that complain about historical fiction, it's too hard, it's too, guess what, boo? You didn't have to live it. I
Exactly.
don't I didn't have to live it. So how much harder do you think it was for them? Stop whining and
Yeah.
just read the book. We
Exactly.
do recognize, we understand that it is dense and that it's dark and that it's heavy. But as we've already stated, there are moments of levity and beauty and purity and innocence that is also available to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can't. I like I said, I would prefer the historical fiction because it would be too much. Just with the nonfiction, it would be too much, especially with parts of what we know in the historical read. It would be too much. And you give us a little romance, we get a little extra stuff. We get a little sister
Yeah.
combos, chats. There's those little lighter moments that, like I said, is like a palate cleanser within the story. So that worked out well. And other things happening, like especially Lynette in her present day, you know, her son and her role as she's an elementary school teacher and what that looks
Mhm.
like, all the things. So absolutely. Do you have any, well, behind the scenes, do you have any writing rituals or must haves while you're drafting and writing your stories?
Water. I always have to have water. I, try to start my day with prayer and cleansing, and like I said, I call on my ancestors. That's
Yeah.
part of my ritual. I was not there. I need y'all to help me. I don't even know what words to use.
Yeah.
So that's part of my ritual. I like to be in a quiet place here in my office. I like ambient music or, smooth instrumentals. I cannot listen to lyrics while I write because they get in the
Oh,
brain.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love to just, play soft music and ambient music while I'm writing. I am a messy writer, meaning that I'll have scraps of paper, I'll have notes on my phone, I'll
Yeah.
have PDF and Excel sheets. I'm just, I'm all over the place,
Yeah.
but somehow I bring it together.
Yeah. And you sure did with this. I was just imagining, like, because you did the dual timeline, like you got the Mississippi facts over here, then you got I was just like, that's a lot to I was like, this is a lot to balance, but you did it so well because like you said, the
Thank you.
authenticity, especially when you're reading historical fiction. I know for me, I'm like, they ain't call that back then. Like I
Yeah,
look for that
yeah,
when I'm reading. So I do appreciate when
yeah,
it's authentic. Like that's not what they refer to that back in
right.
1848. You know what I mean? So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
When you so also behind the scenes, just the research component of this,
Mhm.
what was that like for you?
Yeah, so like I said, my bachelor's is in Black
Right.
Studies. And
So you
so I
already
remember even when I was studying for my bachelor's, I want to know this not just for myself because I want to be able to tell our stories one day. And I learned research. I was a research assistant while I was, studying for
mm,
my bachelor's. That was one of my jobs was being a research assistant. So
yeah.
I became comfortable with research. And even to this little tiny degree, when we were growing up, my sisters and I, we would ask my mother the meaning of a word. She would say, go look it up.
Yep.
Not that she didn't know it. My mother is one of the most intelligent women on this
Yeah.
earth.
I
But
do
it
that
was like,
now.
yeah, even then she was leading me to read, know how to look
Yep.
something up for myself. And as I stated, I had spreadsheets. So I had a spreadsheet with lots of facts and data, and that helped keep me on track and keep
Yeah.
me in order. Even though, like I said, I'm messy with my script, my pieces
Yeah.
of paper. That spreadsheet is like my Bible when I'm working on
Yeah.
historical fiction of a real, living person.
Yeah. Yeah, I commend you guys. I commend authors for just being able to take that and put it into something that just flows so well. Just the plot, the story. I felt like at the end, then we got a little twist. Just all of it just came together beautifully.
Thank
Um,
you.
so for those who join, if you have questions, you can comment any questions. We do have a giveaway. not one, but two books. So I definitely want to take that opportunity. And as we wait, as far as reader questions, I guess, what has been the most meaningful response that you've received from a reader so far? And obviously, this just released, so maybe the
Mhm.
previous stories that you have on your catalog.
I have kind of similar to what you were saying. I had someone say that it sent them on down a rabbit hole on Biddy Mason, and
Yeah.
that's what this is all about. Is
Yeah.
not just entertainment; it's also education, learning something that we didn't know before, perhaps for some,
Yeah.
or reiterating for others.
Yeah.
But that to me is exciting when I am able to share something that maybe someone did not have access to or did not know about, and now they're interested, and now they
Yeah.
want to know more, and they want to learn more because these are our hidden figures, and we're
Yeah.
bringing our hidden figures to the light.
Absolutely. And I didn't share this earlier, but the other part of why this resonated so deeply with me too is because I have three daughters. She had
Mm.
three daughters. And I was thinking, like, walk where from what to how? And I remember holding my first one. I had one of those wraps too, and I would, I carried her around like that. And I was just thinking, I remember when she started getting a little heavier, and I remember in the stories, and he was talking about like, now she's getting plumped up. She's starting to want to crawl,
Yeah.
and still having to carry that weight. And I'm like, all the way across plains and fields and slopes and crossing
Hmm.
rivers. Are you kidding?
Hmm.
Rivers for months
Hmm.
because we went through
Yeah.
seasons through this. We went through
Yeah.
seasons. So yeah, and I shared this story with my daughters. Like, could y'all imagine if y'all had to be out there with me and we was walking all the way
Mhm.
from? My daughter was
Right.
like, "What?" I'm like, "Exactly. Like this is a part of history. This happened.
Yeah.
Imagining folks that were pregnant walking that part. Ooh,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Um, okay, so we have of all the characters in your catalog, which one resonates with you the most and why?
Oh, so for completely different reasons would be my first historical fiction novel. So, quick story. I actually had two novels come out in 2002 and 2003, and they were
Mm,
contemporary, and that was through BET Books. And then I
mm,
had this 13-year hiatus, not intentional. When I came back was 2016, and I came back with Taffy.
yeah,
And Taffy was my first historical fiction piece. And I, sent her out queried letters to, agents, publishers, etc. Nobody wanted Taffy. And so my husband was like, push the button, meaning go do it yourself.
yeah,
And so I self-published, and that's what brought me back to literature and back to the literary world. So I owe Taffy like this debt, just,
yeah,
and I call her the big mama of my books. So to
yeah,
answer that person's question, it would be Taffy for many reasons.
yeah. So now I have to add that to my TBR list. Yeah. So as far as what's next, are you working on anything? I mean, this just released, but are you working on anything else, or what can we expect more from you, historical fiction wise?
Absolutely. So yes, ma'am, I am working on something currently. For those who don't know, I have a writer sister friend. We call each other twin because her author pen name is Suzette Riddick. So
Okay.
twin and I actually met through Taffy. She reached out to me um, after reading Taffy, and we just struck up this sisterhood, not a friendship,
Yeah.
sisterhood.
Yeah.
Heart knitted at the heart. So twin and I have a series called Generations, and they're all
Mm,
small novellas, and they're in this fictional small town called Colemanville in North Carolina. So we have books 1 through 4 have already been released. So Twin and I are currently working on books 5 and 6. So that's what I'm working on. That's
okay.
an independent project. But then as far as my traditional contract goes, I have 2 more books to write for Book Couture under my current contract. So I don't want to say what it is yet, but it
Yeah,
will
yeah,
also
yeah.
be
Yeah.
another dual timeline,
Okay.
and it will also be inspired by a real person, a real living person, woman.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I'm excited to just tap in, following you now. So I'll get to see all the
Thank
things that are
you.
coming down the line, but also just going back into seeing your other works prior to this story. I'm glad this came across, and I'm glad I snagged it, read it, and was like, let's do this, Um, for folks who joined us or readers and whatnot on the call, there's a link right there on the screen that says snag your copy. So if you don't have this that just released on the 12th, um, definitely get yours. We're gonna do a giveaway. It's gonna be 2 books. The rules of the giveaway are making sure you're following Melanin Manuscripts, making sure you're following Suzette D. Harrison, and also you join this live. I would love it if, just for fun, everyone who's on here can just drop where you're tuning in from, what state. Because as we think about it, we had Mississippi and Texas in this book, and I'm just interested to know where y'all at, where I gotta mail this to, potentially. I'm in Virginia, and Suzette, where are you at?
Savannah, Georgia.
Yes, Georgia. Okay. Because you were a native California. Yep. And then you
Yeah.
moved. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So drop that in. We have Georgia here. All right.
Georgia.
VA we have here. See where folks are at. And as we
Yeah.
come to a close, we got look at those are my book club
Wow,
members. Look at
Virginia.
them tuning in, Virginia. Virginia, stand up.
Oh, awesome.
Petersburg, Gwinnett
The
County.
next one, yeah, that's
Okay.
Georgia.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Good. I love this. Um, as you guys are dropping that in, I'm gonna close out with some rapid fire. I like to do this to kind of get to know
Oh,
our folks. All right. So, Suzette, coffee or tea?
T,
Morning writer or night writer?
morning,
Paperback or hardcover?
paperback,
Annotate books or keep them pristine?
pristine.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with your book, I don't usually annotate, but I wanted to, it's historical fiction. I
Yeah.
find myself, I do that with the history ones, like I need to
Yeah.
remember this, do the quotes. Yeah. Um, favorite historical figure besides Biddy Mason. Who else are your folks? I
Oh
know we
my
have a lot.
goodness.
I know we have
Yeah.
a lot.
Stagecoach Mary, Mary
Okay.
Field, Stagecoach
Yes. Yeah.
Mary. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Of course, Sojourner Truth and Harriet
Yeah.
Tubman,
Yeah.
Ona, who I wrote about. Those are those that come readily to mind.
Okay. Last book that made you cry.
This one,
I was gonna say this one for me.
this one, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yes. Favorite place to write.
In my office, in
Okay.
the dark, in the quiet,
Yeah.
no lights on.
Ooh. Okay. I love
Yeah.
that. It's very calm and peaceful.
Yes.
Um, last 5-star read was what are you reading outside of writing your books?
Oh, I have a stack of TBR. I mean, I have a stack. My
Story of
last
our
five.
lives.
Yes. Oh my goodness, my last 5-star read. I have to come back to that one because it's
Okay.
been a while.
Okay.
I've been in
Um,
the writing cave.
if you could have dinner with any historical woman, who would it be?
Dr. Maya Angelou. I
Yeah.
mean, she's not
You
historical
said it, and
old.
I thought it. I was
Yeah.
gonna say the same thing just from what you said earlier. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Um. So I always like to end with this one because it's our closing question. But what is one Black authored book, past or present, that you believe everyone should read at least once, and why?
I love The Warmth of Other Suns. It's not fiction by Dr. Isabel Wilkerson. It's
Okay.
not fiction, but it shows the migration, of
Mhm.
from the South to my state, to the West, to California. It's so beautiful that it
Yeah.
reads like fiction. It's not um, burdensome when you're reading it nonfiction. Sometimes you get overloaded with facts.
Yeah.
It doesn't read like that at all. It's to me, it's such a beautiful book, and it
Okay.
highlights the migration of Black people, different individuals in search of better, just like just like Biddy
Yeah.
Mason. People going in
Yes.
search of better.
Oh, Kiki and the Pages said yes, that's on my list, and that's one of my
Yeah.
butter readers. So, all right, Keisha, we're gonna have to read it. We're gonna have to
Yes.
add that one to the list. Um, all right, y'all. So we have folks that's on here, and I'm excited for you guys to get a copy of With Her Baby on Her Back. Like I said, I enjoyed this read. It'll take you through there, from Mississippi to Texas, but
Yeah.
you're gonna yeah, you're gonna learn about Biddy Mason, obviously the fictional components, the dual timeline. I enjoy this. I want you all to enjoy this too. So who wants to book? Let me see how excited folks are up in here, because we got a lot of folks on here, and there's folks that have shared in the comments. Thank you guys, saying Suzette is absolutely a wonderful person. Writing style is lyrical,
Thank
descriptive.
you.
So much good feedback. I love this.
Thank
Also
you.
putting out your books, her books, The Dust Bowl Orphans, My
Mhm.
Name is One Judge, as well as the new book, show that you are indeed the queen of dual timeline. So
Oh,
I love
thank
that. Thank you.
you. Oh, that's
Yes.
so sweet. Thank you.
All right. All right. So we got some folks in here. All right. Okay. All right, so what I will be doing is I am going to share the recap on Instagram, of this chat with Suzette about With Her Baby on Her Back. And in that, so stay tuned later, because we have to make sure, are you following Melanin Manuscripts? Are you following Suzette? Did you join this live? And then I will be sharing who are the winners of these two books.
Mhm.
So yeah, two people get to share the story. And obviously I always like to remind folks, read, review, give positive
Mhm.
feedback,
Yeah.
that you have, so we can continue amplifying authors, because that's what this is all about. And I thank you, Suzette, for joining me this evening to share about the story. And, I'm excited that this just released and other people get it in their hands. So,
Thank you
yes,
so
thank you.
much. I
Thank you.
appreciate you and everyone that's on here tonight. Thank you from the depths of my heart. And I was trying to answer your other question. I was
Oh,
looking at
yes.
my Goodreads
Yes, you were
list.
holding on.
So
Yes.
Dr. Daniel Black's Perfect Peace. I don't know if anyone has ever read Perfect Peace, but oh, honey,
Okay.
be ready. Read that one and be ready.
Okay.
Because here's not going to be anything you would anticipate or expect.
Okay. So y'all heard that. Be ready.
Be ready
Okay.
from the beginning. Be ready.
Be ready. Okay. Anything else you'd like to share before we close out? And where can they find you aside from Instagram? Where
Yeah,
else? Obviously,
absolutely.
this link at the bottom brings everyone straight to your actual website.
Yes, ma'am. My website, of course, sdhbooks.com, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and one of my, no, I have a little dog. I don't know if it was yours or mine. So
Smart.
don't
Deliveries.
be sorry. I have one too. She's a yippy yappy. But I'm sorry, Facegram, Lord Jesus, Facebook, Instagram,
Facebook.
my website,
Okay.
TikTok is where you can find me. And I love readers and I love book clubs. I love doing
Yay.
virtuals with book club. Doesn't have to be in person. So anybody out
Yes.
there that wants to read or wants an author visit via, Zoom or whatever you
Yes.
do, you know how to
Yes.
find me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. Thanks for joining. Everyone who's joining again, I will share a snippet of the recap on Instagram, because it doesn't let you do but a certain amount of minutes. But then this will be loaded. The full recap will be loaded to our YouTube that I just started to share these spotlights, so people that missed out can watch it fully. So that will go up. All links is in our bio. But thanks you guys. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And thank you, of course, Suzette, for putting this story out, for teaching us about Biddy Mason, and just spending this evening sharing about you as a writer, and what we can expect from you next.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Goodbye.